Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A short warning before we begin. In this first story, we talk about addiction. So if that is a topic that makes you uncomfortable, you might want to skip it. Now, let's get started with today's first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Mrs. Gulch. I know I need to leave my husband, but I'm feeling intensely guilty because we have kids and almost everything I have is because of his family. My husband is a truly awful partner. He is a horrible father and has left me completely alone in parenting. He is lazy, dirty, and doesn't do anything around the house. He is a drug addict. He has chosen drugs, opiates, over our children, my health, a job, insurance, over everything. When he is not high on those, he is still using nicotine, pot, Xanax, Adderall, and alcohol to excess every day. Everyone I know wants and supports me leaving him, except, of course, his family, who knows I am better than him and can't stand the thought of me leaving him. I am not staying for them per se, but I am having a very hard time reconciling my personal need to leave with everything they have done for me. My mother-in-law helps out a lot. She often gives me money to help pay for our kids' schools and activities. She has a lot of awesome stuff she always lets us use, and she is willing to babysit often. She is a partial owner of the home we currently live in, and we live here rent-free, but pay all the bills and repairs. She got me my job. She is one of my best friends. I love everyone in its family. I am grateful for all they do for me. My kids know how unhappy I am. My 6-year-old often tells me we should just live without daddy. But I know that if I end this marriage, we will never be a family again, and that is a very hard pill to swallow. I feel intense guilt over this and know my husband will make sure I am always feeling that guilt and am to blame. I know the best case scenario for everyone would be if we could be a happy family, but I don't see how I can ever forgive him for the last 8 years, in which I have been a single parent and also been treated as a mother rather than a partner by him. Were he to change 100%, I still could never get back the years of being a new mom, all alone, practically hating my babies because I was so sleep deprived and depressed. I will never be able to enjoy those newborn moments, and they are forever gone, lost in a sea of memories of crying in the shower while every part of my body hurt, and they screamed in the background from being put down, while my husband just played video games and asked me when I would be done so I could get back to the baby. So I know I need to leave. I don't need to be told that he sucks. I know it. I know everyone knows it. I know I have support. I know we cannot help each other. I do not love him. But he does love me, and he is the father of my children, and literally everything that I do have that I love, I have because of him and his family. I honestly never want a relationship again. I don't believe in marriage. I am comfortable and confident being alone. So sometimes I wonder, what is the point? Why tear this all down if I want to stay alone anyway? Can't I just suffer through it? After all, without him, it's not like it will get any easier. He still won't be there to help. His mom and family may be less available then too. I might lose my job because of it. Is it worth all of that to get away from the man who ruined motherhood for me? Is it worth my children possibly hating me a little bit forever so that they don't have to see him passing out while standing up because he is too high? Well, OP, if all of those what ifs were to actually happen, I'd still say yes, it is absolutely worth it. However, I don't think any of that is going to happen. For starters, I don't think your kids are gonna hate you when your 6-year-old is telling you that you could live without him because, let's face it, he's not a father, he's not a partner, he's an unreliable douchebag that plays video games and gets high. That's it. And yeah, I know he has an addiction and he's got his own demons, but in this case, there's kids here that take precedence. At least, for me, that's more important. Also, OP, if your mother-in-law is one of your best friends or is your best friend, shouldn't she be more worried about her grandchildren and tell you actually, you know what? You need to leave my son. He's no good for you. He's no good for my grandkids. And the hard truth, OP, is that apparently you've never been a family if since the moment that your kids were born, he hasn't even been there. No, this is a big no, no, no. Don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to your kids. Just do what you can to get out. Apparently, you have a huge support network from a lot of other people and your own family. So rely on them and get the hell out of there. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? How fast would you get out? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Grendalone says, I'll make this real simple. You do what's best for your kids. Period. End of discussion. Staying married to this person is harming your children. Leave him. Even your kids want away from him. No matter what his family has done for you in the past, you must do what's best for yourself and your children now. Deleted says, I didn't read the whole post. I stopped at, my kids know I'm unhappy, but I know we won't be a family again if I leave. And I just want to say, there are a ton of different types of families. Mine didn't have a father at all. My cousins didn't have parents. My friends had step-parents, etc., etc. There's no one right type of family, and any people that love and support you and your children can be your family. Don't limit yourself to the image of a nuclear family because it's BS and it's damaging. Your kids want to see you happy. They want to see you loved and joyful. Choosing to stay where you are, undervalued, unappreciated, and a host of other negative things will impact them in a huge subconscious way that will undermine everything you're consciously trying to instill within them. Choose yourself and leave. You deserve better, and so do your kids. And OP responds, I am definitely a more open-minded person when it comes to how we'll all live our lives and the makeup of a family. But there's still things really ingrained in me and in our culture, so thanks. It helps having another person say it. Tiny Cat Crafts says, you are not a family now. Your 6-year-old child wants to leave. Do not leave for you, leave for them. Leave for your children. Bundle them up and take them away to a healthy home. My mom left my father when his drinking got out of control. It is the absolute best thing she has ever done. The man is a disaster, and I thank her every Father's Day for being a better father figure than he ever was. If your 6-year-old kid is able to see that you need to leave, you should have left a long time ago. And screw his family for thinking that you should stick around and put their grandkids, nephews, and nieces through the nightmare that is a man not capable of being a father to them. Run, and run now. Additional information from OP's comments. It's hard to decide. You just don't want to deal with this for the rest of your life. But I don't. He hid this side of himself from me during our entire pre-marriage relationship. So while I hate feeling like I'm giving up on him and his disease, it also just effing sucks to be married to it. And sometimes I do get angry when I think about his family saying things like, I just hope you can stick it out. Because this really has been a nightmare and honestly just keeps getting worse. It's horrible to guilt me into staying with someone who doesn't deserve me just because they love me. What kind of love is that, really? Alright, well, the community absolutely agrees. OP needs to leave that man, and not just for herself, but also for her children. Really important. And in the comment section, I kind of got the idea that OP was about ready to do something about it. So let's move on to the update to see what happened next. But before that, if you're enjoying my content so far, please go ahead and click that like button, and if you still haven't subscribed, consider joining our community today. Now, let's move on with that update. I am just so thankful for the insights I gained from my previous post 3 months ago. There was some blunt reality, but it felt loving, and it's a big part of what made me realize I was fooling myself into thinking my husband would change or that his habits and behaviors wouldn't negatively affect our kids. I was encouraged to start seeing a therapist, which I did. The first one I tried ended up being a beautiful fit, which I regard as nothing less than a miracle. She was blunt and insightful, and gave me the courage I needed to face my guilt and fears and put my kids first. He's an addict. This is a lifelong battle, and because of everything else he has put me through and let me do alone, I just do not have the love necessary to want to face that battle together with him forever. It took me just under 3 months from feeling totally conflicted to conquering my doubts, making a plan, and getting the hell out. Making that plan was seriously my biggest obstacle, and I let it be. I think I used it as a crutch. Finally, I sat there for 2 hours and went through every possibility till it just clicked and I went, duh, that can totally work. 5 days later, I took all my stuff and the kids while he was at work. Here's what I want to share with those who face similar situations. My therapist let me know as kindly as she could that although I did a great job of protecting my kids, there was no way I could guarantee 100% that they would always be safe there. And if they ever got into any of those drugs or were harmed because of them, my kids would also be taken away from me for staying in a home where I knew those dangers were present, for subjecting them to it. That shattered my perception of control really fast, because it's true. We cannot watch every movement every minute. I just wanted to stand proudly and say that after 8 years of desperately clinging to any chance of happiness, equality, and a partnership, I was finally able to leave the man I have been in love with for 16 years. I truly believed with every fiber of my soul that he was my one true love, and I almost didn't make it through the first week away. It was much more difficult than I expected. Having grown to hate him so much, it still hurt, but I did make it through, and already I am so much happier. I'm so much freer. My kids are more loved. He is finally giving them attention, and I can see hope for us all. I made excuses for his behavior because I felt I could see the nuance of it all. But what others helped me realize is that some behavior needs no nuance to it. Some stuff is just effed up no matter how you slice it. Now, regarding his family, things have actually been great so far. They are all sad, as everyone is, but they see where I am coming from. They know his problems, and although I think they struggle to accept the reality of them, they all have some addiction behaviors to a certain degree, and they love him, of course. They have each reached out to make sure I know I am always a part of the family. I was still invited to Thanksgiving and the upcoming Christmas parties. My mother-in-law still calls, texts, and watches my kids 1 day a week. In fact, she is trying harder to do that for me now. I think they all really feel they need to step in now that I'm alone. And while I certainly won't argue with that, I think it's kind of funny or sad that they really didn't see I was already alone. I'm actually more capable and have more energy and time now that I'm not also taking care of him. My job is fine for now, as I actually haven't approached his extended family about it yet. Only his parents and siblings know so far. This has worked because I think he's still hopeful we're getting back together, so he hasn't pushed telling people. Based on how well everyone else in his family has responded, I am hopeful they will well receive it. If not, at least I'm out and can see hope and know I can find other work. Again, his entire family has been wonderful so far. They've made sure I still feel the same love from them. They get it. They've seen it. Also, I know his change is just his manipulation coming on stronger. After the first week, I had to have another hard conversation with him where I made sure he knew I was years away from trusting him as a dad or partner figure. Even though his behavior has somewhat changed, he hasn't asked to see them as much. And he already took the money back he said I could have to care for the kids. And now he's doing more of the manipulative, "Are you sure? I'm so sad and lonely" calls and texts that I was first expecting. He is still him. Side eye, smiley face. For those of you wondering about his job and his addiction, for a long time he was successful in sales until the opiate addiction got worse. He spent 14 months unemployed, so the reference to putting his addiction before insurance in my first post. And has now been working in real estate, but has yet to make a paycheck. He has the manipulative personality to be successful in sales for sure, but this job doesn't really require 9 to 5 hours. And since they're not paying him yet, I'm not sure his addiction is really noticed or cared about that much. As far as I can tell, he hasn't been on opiates since I left, but he is still using his other drugs daily, so he is certainly not detoxing. Also, I have not started the legal custody battle yet, which I know is bad, but there's been a lot to go through, talk about, and consider. I have had consults with lawyers. They all say he will get supervised visits that will get longer as drug tests come back okay, and that I can demand one whenever I want. It all just remains to be seen. I know he feels bad, I know he knows it's his fault, and I know he wants to be better, but without the drugs, he's just a manipulative a-hole. There's no loving, energetic guy to get back to, so there won't be another chance. But I do hope this at least kicks his butt into gear with the drugs and hopefully the parenting too. And that's it. I just wanted to encourage anyone else who is in a similar situation. You might need to start talking more about your problem so that others can help you see how little control you have and how horrible it really is. Then put yourself first. Don't let them manipulate you back in. And get the hell out if you know in your heart you should. Well, OP, even though, considering the situation absolutely sucks, I'm gonna call this a happy and positive update in the making. And that is only because you're still going through a little bit of trouble, but you are well on your way to being better off, and so are your kids. This is great, OP. So on that note, here's wishing you and your kids the best in the future. Hopefully your husband does get the help that he needs, but if he doesn't, you're home free. So thank you so much for sharing, OP, and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user 6sil1998. Take notes of everything you say in the meeting? Okay, but it will get you fired. This happened a few years ago, and I will be vague since I'm still not sure if the dust has fully settled from this fiasco yet. At my former company, I was the secretary for a small improvement team that would meet monthly to discuss issues within the company and brainstorm ways to fix them. Something you need to know about me is that I was given this role because people know I am meticulous at keeping records due to HR-related issues I had at a previous place of employment. I don't think my boss realized that this careful record keeping applied to her as well, especially when she appointed me to be secretary of this little committee, but I digress. I was a model employee, read award-winning, and went above and beyond what was asked, as were many others in my department, but we were still having customer complaints and dealt with regular safety issues due to the company at large and through no fault of our own. When we brought these concerns to our boss's attention, emails were left unread, and during in-person exchanges, we were called whiny, needy, and were told that we needed to just deal with it. Whatever the issue, from items being stolen by customers to people being unhappy with the procedures the boss had set down for us to follow, it was always made to be our fault somehow. When we sought support from other departments, we were met with cold indifference, since the boss was great to them and we must be exaggerating the things she said to us. Well, during an improvement meeting at the end of the fiscal year, it all came to a head. A couple of my team members and I dug our heels in and were insistent about the unresolved issues the boss refused to acknowledge, and she finally went off on us. She told us everyone was incompetent, didn't deserve our jobs, and that maybe customers would like us more if we were more likable. When people pressed her on safety issues, she continued to reiterate that we would just have to deal with it and that if someone was going to die, they already would have, right? I, as the secretary, did my duty and took notes of all that happened over the course of that meeting. I usually did bullet points, but that night I was feeling a little bit more thorough, so I wrote down words. Every word that was said, every hateful comment, denial of accountability, and idle threat was recorded in black and white. Now, a second part of my job was to distribute the notes from the improvement meeting to the rest of the company. So, come the next morning, I ran about 100 copies of the transcript of the meeting and hand-delivered them to every single department in the building, and things blew up. People from other departments who had attended the meeting were able to verify that everything I had typed up had really been said, and folks were mad, threatening to quit, refusing to do their normal duties, browsing Indeed during work, etc. My boss's boss, who worked at HQ, so I didn't get the opportunity to hand her a copy, got wind of these meeting minutes only a few hours after I had handed them out, and had an hour-long off-the-record conversation with me about all the safety issues I had documented, all the concerns I had submitted to management in writing, and all the records I had regarding my boss's inaction. She was very grateful for the 100 pages of documentation I sent over and thanked me for my time. The day after I unleashed Pandora's box, I put in my 2 weeks notice, took a new job, and placed out to greener pastures. At first, it seemed like things were calming down after I left, but the following year, the company did not renew my boss's contract. I still feel a bit bad because I wasn't trying to get her fired or ruin her life. I was just desperate for some accountability thrown her way to create some positive change in the company. But at the end of the day, I just did what she had asked me to do. Well, OP, I think you shouldn't feel bad. You actually helped the company by helping them get rid of that bad boss that you had. So I guess that's all just to say, good job, OP. You did exactly what she wanted you to do. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.